ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 3 of the series What If Deku Had the Power to Enhance His Physical Attributes. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Izuku's POV. The next day class starts again, with Aizawa's usual greeting to the class. We all listened to yesterday's wrap of the USJ incident, or at least I hope you did. Aizawa mutters to himself, I know this incident was probably a very eye-opening moment for you, especially for you, Akita. Nizu has also decided on one more decision regarding this accident. UA is still planning to hold our annual sports festival. We all had another meeting after yesterday's conference with you guys, and we debated on if we should hold this or not. What? Aoyama says in surprise, but Sensei, our class just got into an accident with the LONF, or whatever they're called. Not to sound rude, but why are we going to do this if there is a high possibility of a villain attack? Momo asks, we thought they wouldn't attack at USJ. We didn't even expect it, but they still did, so how do we know that they won't attack at the annual UA Sports Festival? That's exactly one of the reasons why Satan, I mean the esteemed and great Principal Nizu, has decided to still host the event. He wants to convey the message to everyone that UA is still strong and confident in our abilities and strength, that we won't let a simple villain attack intimidate us. He wants to make this UA Sports Festival a stand against the public media and a message to the villains that we won't be intimidated that easily. I sigh well that it would be a reasonable idea, and also the usual predictable heartlessness of Nizu to just sacrifice and risk the safety of his students like that just to keep the reputation of his school high. Although Shigaraki would probably not do anything too rashly like an attack of UA during a festival where heroes and civilians will be gathering in large numbers, since I will be leaking all the details to him. But if he still decides, or if I can persuade him to attack during the festival, it seems like bait from Nizu also, as if he's daring us to attack, which makes me want to say yes to his little challenge. Sensei? I ask, my hand slowly making sure I put on a purposeful stutter. Yes, problem child? Aizawa asks with a sigh. Is there another reason why Principal Nizu is hosting the UA Sports Festival despite the recent villain attack? I understand that making a stand to the public, media, and villains is important, but is there another reason? Aizawa takes a sip of his coffee and rubs the bridge of his nose. He's also hoping to lay a trap for the villains. At least that's what we told him to do. If they try to attack, Nizu has plenty of traps and regulations and plans installed to defend UA. There will also be a large amount of heroes scattered across the school and the audience to prevent the school and even capture the villains. See, so Shigaraki would have two choices for this sports festival. Not do anything the most boring, but most certainly the safest. Risk an attack and try to make a statement. The traps would be easy to avoid as long as I remember to actually hack into UA's database and track down any files or apps or plans that had their positioning on them. I'll have to make sure in person also to double-check in case the files were also a trap set by Nizu. The real problem will be the other heroes who will be in the school during that time. Machines were easy to fool and deceive. They were predictable things, but other people, well, those were harder to understand. There were often too many factors to properly understand the actions these different people with different backgrounds will take. So step 2 could go 2 different routes. Would be to actually try to defeat All Might as we've always wanted and planned for. Or we can attack in a way that will send the public a message that not even in UA surrounded by all this security and all these heroes will be safe. Or I'm guessing 3, which would be both, although this is highly unlikely. We could take down All Might, and that could also send a message that nobody, not even the hero of peace, was safe from the reach of villains. This was probably extremely hard to do since our Nomas couldn't be depended on to actually take down All Might in a single hit. It would be hard, and if we failed we'd have a harder time of even getting point 2 across to our targeted audience. If I can even create a Nomu by the sports festival, it'd have to take down All Might in a single hit or the surrounding heroes will take it down quickly. Creating the Nomu will be hard seeing as how it'll have to be able to blend in to get close enough to All Might's side, even if he's surrounded by UA teachers, trusted staff, and other heroes. Our final product will be something that has some sort of sleeper build, and it'll be disguised as a normal civilian, and the number one thing I'll prioritize is the speed it'll cover to reach All Might's side and finish him before anyone else can react. But most likely that will be impossible in the short amount of time we'll have. Can I ask when this sports festival will be? I ask, once more, my face twisted into a frown as I think deeply. Trying to outsmart a rat known for his IQ would be insanely difficult. The sports festival is most likely taking 2.5 weeks from now. I'm informing you this early so that you will have time to prepare and for some of you to actually take this hero training seriously. Plan 2 will, however, require the deaths of civilians. Preferably as many heroes and civilians as we can. And maybe we'll even have some sort of cryptic message broadcasted by hacking the camera and surveillance system of UA, which will scare people more, saying that no one was safe no matter where they went. For this plan, the Nomu wouldn't have to be too strong either, although I did have 2.5 weeks. Really, plan 2 didn't sound too bad. We could bring down civilian morale and trust in heroes, which could even bring UA's confidence and strength a couple pegs down. We can increase tensions within UA too, since Nizu will suspect a traitor for leaking information that outsiders shouldn't know. The heroes will be even more on high alert, and it would be perfect timing to spread fear. And if I played my cards right, I could get rid of people at school by setting them up as traitors or spies. Does that answer your questions? Aizawa asks, and I snap out of my quick train of thoughts and plotting. I nod and smile, quickly rearranging my facial expressions from a deeply in thought one to an innocent, grateful smile. I thank him and look down at my hands on my desk, continuing my train of thoughts before I forget. Victim, victim, victim. Preferably from this class, so it'll be easier to manipulate the evidence to point at someone. I'll know them better, and it'll be easier to tailor the evidence to point more clearly at them. My eyes scan the classroom before they land on him. I smile happily. Oh, this was almost too easy. It almost felt like a trap, but from what I researched, maybe the heroes were really just this dumb. Immediately after school, I head home, only stopping by a supermarket to buy myself some food so I don't starve to death before I can enact my revenge. I stop home and put my groceries into my fridge before I take some food out and start to make myself a small quick meal. I eat quickly before I leave my house through my window as I leave on the 3rd floor of my apartment complex. As I travel across the rooftops of the city to get to Shigaraki and the LOV's bar area. I'm a paranoid villain, I suppose, and I look around me occasionally to make sure that I'm not being followed. I open the door of the bar and slip in quickly before I close the door behind me. Hirojiri greets me, and I head further into the bar to find Shigaraki. I want to inform him about my plans for the UA sports event. Izuku's POV. I pull into the bar and wave to Hirojiri, who nods solemnly at me. I pass him and slide up to the chair in front of a computer on top of a desk. Shigaraki is sitting before his computer game, and I press a key to pause it, and he swings around in his chair angrily at me. He pauses when he sees it's me and calms down a little. Oh, it's you. I roll my eyes and pull a bar stool underneath me as I sit down. We have a lot of things to talk about, I say seriously. His eyes narrow a bit at me, and I smile back at him. He listens attentively as I explain to him the general situation going on at UA, and what I've planned so far, and what options we have as the LOV. I explain to him the drawbacks and the pros of each route of the plan I've made we can take. Shigaraki finally sighs once my voice starts to wane. From what you've told me, you're leaning towards option 2, right? Both of them. Option 2. Risk an attack and try to make a statement. We can attack in a way that will send the public a message that not even in UA, surrounded by all this security and all these heroes, will be safe. While I say sarcastically, you're not even considering not attacking like a nice guy. Not that I would either. Anyways, yes, I am leaning towards option 2. Okay, let's do that then. Shigaraki says reasonably. I've learned to trust your judgment even if you're annoying when you're talking. I roll my eyes again. Fine, I'll just be tinkering with the Nomus for a little bit like we need to. Go ahead. Shigaraki says, waving a hand. Just remember the sports festival is in 2.5 weeks, so whatever you do, just don't mess them all up. Either that, or make them all perfect. Don't worry too much. I have a plan that will work. Probably. I say. Shigaraki sighs again and returns his attention to his video game, which appears to be a horror game, and I look hopelessly at Hirojiri, who nods at me with what looks like a tired smile. He opens a portal for me, and I step through before I stand in front of a warehouse full of Nomus, all submerged in a light radioactive-looking liquid. I smile happily and resist the urge to clap my hands like a little kid. I'm sure if I could look at myself from another point of view, my eyes would be growing a similar toxic green to the liquid that the Nomus were in. But nobody was here to see that delightful sight, and I mutter, "How fun." I walk closer and trail my fingers behind me along the glass containers as I examine each Nomu individually. The lab has all the materials I need to execute my plan. My end goal, as I've stated before, was to create a Nomu that could blend and look civilian-like. But it had to be strong enough to take down All Might and smart enough to understand commands and be trained, but not smart enough to summon a conscience into the Nomus. I roll my shoulders as I pick one Nomu form out of the rest. They were all similar to each other, and this was the basic build they came in. From here, I will test out and research how to make them strong enough to take down All Might. After I have that strength in mind, I'll work on the disguise, and then finally the intelligence. I stare at the Nomus. Their basic forms were crude. They had one human body basically as a canvas for other things to be implanted and changed. The natural things remaining in the Nomus were the nervous system that reached out from the brain throughout the body and the skeletal and muscle structure itself. In the brain, there was a little electric device or chip implanted that would send different electrical pulses that will control the way a Nomu will move. Using this, you could control a Nomu anonymously, or you can program the Nomu to act in certain ways in certain situations. There were no remaining pain receptors in the Nomu. It didn't have vital fluid as it didn't need it, and any bodily reactions were all forced. They were always decomposing since they were technically dead, hence the green liquid. They also didn't have to eat, as again no bodily reactions were natural. After I inspect the basic form of the Nomu and have a plan for the little electrical device I'd build next, I start contemplating a combination of quirks that will make it possible for the Nomu to finish off All Might. I will also replace the eyes they have with cameras, and in their ears with little mics that pick up on sounds. I would have the Nomu just bring in a bomb or grenade or gun to unalive all the nearby civilians, but again the security at UA was quite tight, and that will practically be a death sentence for my Nomu. But for quirk selection, I would have to create something that will allow the Nomu and the person controlling it, probably Shigaraki, to be able to unalive the surrounding civilians in a quick instant before the nearby heroes can react. Maybe a quirk that can boost other quirks and then force initiate that onto the Nomu itself. Additionally, a AoE quirk that is an attack will also be perfect. Something like poisoning the air around the Nomu could work. The boosting quirk could then increase that to have a larger AoE, and then it can also increase the toxicity of the attack also. I sigh as I sit down into a chair and tap my chin, trying to continue my train of thought. I then stand up and get to work experimenting. There's also a thought in the back of my mind that I need to remember to unalive people to replace the decaying skin on the Nomu. The smell can be covered with perfume, and some parts can also be covered with clothes. I have to figure out a way to finish off people without damaging too much of their skin. Maybe a quick stab mark will work. Strangeling would ruin the skin around the neck, and gunshot would absolutely ruin the skin. I would have to do that afterwards. I focus on my one Nomu, and I build the chip to plant into its head. I also prepare the quirk injections for the Nomu. I spend the next week and a half after school working on the Nomu before I finally manage to perfect it, and the only thing that's left is to skin some victims and place their skin onto my Nomu. I finally completed a week and a half after Aizawa announced the UA Sports Festival to the class. I'm finally ready to show Shigaraki my completed project, and after school on Friday, I turn off his computer and ask Kurojiri to open a warp portal to my warehouse. Shigaraki and Kurojiri follow me as I step through, and we pass the rows of glass containers with Nomus in them until at the end of the hall lies the Nomu I've been working on. I open the container and drag my Nomu out, and make sure to start up the chip with the basic programming I've already downloaded onto it. I then ask Kurojiri to create another warp to an area that's wide and where no one would be. As you wish, he solemnly says before we all warp to a small forest clearing. I'm dragging my Nomu along with me carefully on a metal cart, and once we land I unstrap the Nomu. So is this the way it's going to be during the sports festival also? You're going to wheel in this totally not suspicious cart with a person on it? Shigaraki asks while scratching his chin. I glare at him. Actually, you'll be the one controlling this thing's movement, but for showing you guys' sake, I downloaded a program into its control chip that will show its basic skills. The Nomu slides off the cart on its own, and it proceeds to walk around the camera in. Its eyes scanning the scenery and sending the data it's collecting to a computer which has a program of how the Nomu will respond to certain situations. It walks around smoothly and acts for the most part civilian-like and Shigaraki-use. Just so you know, this Nomu also has two quirks. One is a large toxic poison cloud-generating quirk, and the other is a quirk that you can force activate that basically boosts the first quirk. This will be how we'll be able to execute the plan, I say, and Shigaraki and Kurogiri nod seriously. Additionally, right now it's running on simple programming, but in reality Shigaraki can control it remotely like it's a video game. That's a good thing, because I'm an excellent gamer, Shigaraki says with a smirk, and this makes it so that I can be involved in the actual plan. That's right, since you'll be controlling it remotely, it'll probably increase the chances of success for our plan to succeed, I say with a nod. Kurogiri nods. I also understand, so is there anything specific I will need to do? The plan isn't set in stone yet, but what I'm thinking is on the day of I'll need you to warp in the Nomu as close as you can so that it doesn't have to travel too far and pass too many people, which will risk its identity further. That sounds like a good idea, Kurogiri tells me. Right, Shigaraki? Shigaraki rolls his eyes and nods. Yeah, it sounds fine. I'll let you guys know the full plan when we get closer to the sports festival, I say as I turn to Kurogiri to ask him to open a portal for us back to the bar. The three of us step through the warp gate, and I hang out and play some Mario Kart with the two of them before I head home. Izuku's POV. I lay in my bed later that night trying to get some sleep. I would totally love to sleep more often. The only problem being that I always have the worst dreams when my eyes even close for a second. I sigh as I try to fall asleep even for a little bit. I did need to rest once in a while, I suppose. My eyes flutter close as they feel heavier, and my thoughts start to slow, and the last complete thought I have before I fall asleep is I hope I won't have any nightmares. My eyes snap open, and I look around me. No. I think as I feel a hand grab my shirt and pull my face up towards theirs. I turn my head slowly, and I come face to face with Bakugo. A goon angrily slaps my face. Are you awake? The goon snaps, and I feel myself nod furiously. How did you even manage to fall asleep, or whatever, while you're getting beat up? Quirkless people are really useless and weak. Bakugo TCHS, he's always been weak like this. It's why it's our job to educate and show him how tough the world is for quirkless people, so she won't do anything stupid. There's an explosion as he presses a hand against my chest and activates his quirk. I cough up, and the air rattles in my chest before I cough, and phlegm and vital fluid shoots out of my mouth, landing on Bakugo's school uniform. He clicks his tongue angrily and glares at me before he punches me in the right eye, and my head slams backwards into the school wall. My head rings as my visions blackens and spots over. I'm in a backyard alley of my middle school, and I collapse to the ground once Bakugo releases his grip on my body, and his goons all kick me before they stride off, hands in their pockets, laughing. Bakugo stops walking away for a moment before he looks back and stares at me. This is all for your own good, you know. I lay on the floor gasping for breath as I feel vital fluid leak out from my eyes, and as I weakly cough. The scene changes quickly, and I find myself locked in a closet at my old house with the sounds of my mother crying outside of my door blocking my way out as she apologizes to me over and over again. I feel myself telling her that I love her, and it's not her fault. I try to open the door out of the dark closet, feeling the air getting caught in my throat as the war seems to press in towards me, and my heart grips as my head continuously pounds. Mom, let me out, please. I'll be good. I promise. Please, help me, Mom. I plead through the door, and for a couple minutes I'm drowning in my own silence before my mother yanks open the door and pulls me out by the ear before throwing me against the wall. I bounce off the solid wall and tumble against the ground as my mother rages and cries around me, pulling my hair. I'm sorry. She mutters before her deranged eyes come back. It's him, isn't it? She asks no one in particular before striding up to my side where I lay coughing on the floor. It's him. If I get rid of him, will you come back? Her eyes seem to glow as she looks down on me, and my little body shudders as she raises a hand and seems to be lost in thought as she slaps my face over and over again. It's not enough. I must erase him. Erase him, and he'll come back to me. My mother continues to rant to herself. Mom, stop. Please, Mom. I'll be quiet. I won't do anything wrong. I plead, and she glares at me. Be quiet. It's your fault. She leaves my room with a slam before I hear her head down the stairs. My face is numb as I manage to pull myself up using my bedpost and staggering to find somewhere to hide before she comes back. I drag my body into a small closet underneath the sink and I curl up. I fall asleep from pure exhaustion in the cool, damp closet. When I wake up again, my body is sore, but I can slightly move my limbs as I clamber out from under the sink. I try to take a shower, only succeeding in sitting in the shower and letting the water run over me. I collapsed underneath my bed with a blanket curled around me too scared to even lay on my bed. I fall asleep again, my face puffing up and purple with bruises and my back also bruised. I'm awoken this time by a gentle hand on my head, and I startle awake and shoot further under my bed towards the wall. My mother's face smiles at me as she gently says, "Izuku, why are you playing hide and seek? It's early in the morning and come out and eat. Mama is sorry for everything, you'll forgive me, right? I'm just not feeling that well, but you know that I love you a lot, right?" I shudder as I grab the blankets tighter around me, and I can feel the bruise on my back screaming in pain at this movement. "You know I love you a lot, right?" She repeats again, "Come out now and let Mama look after you." I feel my body move out from under the bed and towards my mother, who smiles at me. "Can I become a hero, even if I'm quirkless?" I ask, looking up at my hero, All Might, who stood before me with wide eyes. I'd just woken up from a slime attack, and who would believe me when I saw my favorite hero, an idol, All Might, standing before me. "A quirkless hero?" All Might says with a confused expression. "Don't you understand that the world is not safe anymore for the quirkless?" "Yes, but you are always saying that anyone can be a hero," I say excitedly. "Well, yes, anyone with a quirk can become a quirk. For the quirkless, becoming a hero is obviously way too dangerous and is basically suicide. If you still want to help people, I'd recommend becoming a detective, police, or some sort of doctor maybe." All Might says, "Well, I've got to go now. Goodbye, young shonen, and stay safe. It is dangerous for people like you out there." I watch as my idol jumps off with a strong jump, and I feel my hands shake as it feels like someone was physically blocking my arteries and squeezing my heart and throat. I lay there under the bridge, sobbing and gasping for breath. Why did I have to be born if I only live to be mistreated by the people around me? My life has no worth is what I'm constantly reminded of every day. I have no goals or hopes left in life. So what is the point of my existence? I shoot upwards in my bed, gasping. My eyes dart around the room and my hands are balled into fists in my sheets. I relax my grip and run a hand through my hair before I pinch myself and slap myself just to make sure I'm actually awake. My head pounds as I pull myself out of my bed and try to move on with my daily routine of washing my face. I feel worse having slept than not. My hand is shaky and my vision blacks out as I try to bring some food up to my mouth to eat something. I sigh before I put my fork down and glance at the clock. It's 4 a.m. I have 3 hours until I have to leave for school. My last dream was entirely true. I really didn't have any purpose in life. My only reason to stay alive was just for revenge against those who wronged me. Bakugo and All Might were the only two left. The other goons of bullies I've already dealt with. Bakugo and All Might would receive special treatment, and I'll make sure that my revenge would be the most satisfying and entertaining for myself. I deserve to have some fun in life after all. I look at my food again and pick up my fork. I'll try to eat again. That's what I always do after all. Try again. Izuku's POV. A couple of days later. I finish my school day with a sigh before I head towards my home, and then to the LOV bar. Today was the day I would finalize the complete plan with Shigaraki and Kurogiri. I'm munching on an onigiri as I walk through the door, and Kurogiri hands me a Coca-Cola in a cup with ice before he grabs a cup of some sort of drink himself, before he comes to sit next to me and Shigaraki on the couch. I place a bunch of white printer paper on the table and pull out pens from my bags. Let's hurry this up so that I can go back to playing Mario Kart. I was just about to beat some NPCs, Shigaraki says with a huff, and I roll my eyes fondly at what I've come to call my own older brother. It's good to take your eyes off of that screen of yours once in a while. Kurogiri says responsibly, and I smile at the mother of our group, Mamajiri at its finest. It's not even going to take that long. I sigh. We just have to finalize and figure out our plan for the sports festival that's going to happen in like 2 days. What day is it right now? It's May 22nd. Kurogiri tells me. The sports festival is happening in 3 days, so on May 25th. What Kurogiri said. I say before pulling the blank papers closer towards me before I sketch out the maps of traps Nizu had implanted around the school. I'd hacked the UA security 2 days ago, and instead of risking printing out the security map itself, I memorized the entire trap placements throughout the school, and yesterday, I had double-checked the placements and most had aligned, but there were also no traps where the map said there would be, and I found hints of the shock traps that Nizu had purchased at different places. While checking, I'd of course been careful to stay out of the sights of the various cameras. I also double-checked the footage when I returned home to make sure I wasn't visible. So the map I was drawing for the other two was on the placement of shock and stun and gas traps I'd found littered throughout the school. I show them the map of the traps Nizu had placed throughout the school. There's a ton in the halls of the stadium where the sports festival itself will be happening. Shigaraki nods his head as he inspects my hand-drawn map, and Kurogiri takes a look at the coordinates I've written down as places where we can warp the Nomu to. What if we use the bathrooms? Shigaraki asks me. We can just wrap the Nomu into a bathroom stall that you can check to make sure it is empty. What about the security cameras that I found pointed towards the entrance of the bathrooms? They'll notice if an additional person that never entered the bathroom exited it. I say, you're right. Shigaraki says, taking a sip of his lemonade. I think the bathroom idea is a good one. At least our Nomu wouldn't have to go directly through intense security to get into the festival. Kurogiri says, at the most it would need to carry a seat ticket we can purchase so that if they ever get stopped by security, Shigaraki can just control the Nomu to show the security the ticket. It is a good idea. I say, tapping my chin. We just need to figure out how to explain the sudden exit of the Nomu in the restroom. I could hack the cameras from inside another one of the stalls to glitch the cameras out for a split couple of seconds, and then you can teleport in the Nomu into the stall. So even if they get suspicious, they would just think that the Nomu entered the stall during the glitch. That's not a bad idea either. Shigaraki says, sounding a bit more intelligent than normal. Just make sure it's not easy to tell that someone hacked their system. Remember, they have a Nizu on their side. I roll my eyes. I've been hacking their system for months now, and they've yet to figure it out. And we have me on the team. Kurogiri politely covers his mouth to laugh, and Shigaraki snorts and looks away. Okay, you arrogant monster. I laugh for a couple of seconds before my expression settles into solemnity. Next, you guys make sure to start the attack during the very last 1v1 matches. This part of the sports festival is already confirmed by the teachers and everything. Since the attack will happen during the final match, tensions will already be high during the crowd, as will the volume. It'll buy you a bit of extra time during the murder spree, since it'll take people a bit of time before they notice. They both nod, and I sigh. Last step is figuring out how to craft evidence to point towards our scapegoat. Who is this scapegoat again? Kurogiri asks me. You told us once before, but I've spent too much time around Shigaraki that I've sort of forgotten. I smile. So true. Shigaraki does tend to have that sort of effect. Hey, Shigaraki complains. Anyways, I say, cutting him off with another smile. I'm trying to craft evidence to point towards my classmate named Mineta. He's basically a pervert in the making, and I really don't like him that much. Plus, he's always trying to talk to me, and it's annoying. Oh my god, yes, it's so annoying when people are trying to talk to you when you don't want them to. Shigaraki says with a groan, leaning his head back on the couch. Just like now with you. But you enjoy my presence around here, don't you? I say, blinking my eyes. No, I would any. He does. Kurogiri tells me, and I smirk. See, I knew it. Whatever, you can just call yourself the little brother randomly then. Shigaraki mutters. I smile. What was that? Little brother? I never even said anything about that. He rolls his eyes. Can we just return to the plan? Fine, anyways, I need to figure out a way to point the evidence towards Minoru Mineta. I sigh. It really is annoying to create evidence to pin the blame on other people. I know such pain. Kurogiri says dryly. Okay, well, what evidence do we need to create? Shigaraki asks, pulling his body back up into proper posture before slouching again. Well, first we need something to hint that he had a hand in allowing the Nomu to enter. For what it's worth, if we can get the Nomu out from UA without it getting caught and arrested, it would be nice, since it's pretty much the perfect prototype for high-risk missions like these. I'm also planning to hack his computer and then hack the UA system from there, but leave small traces back to him. Not too much, or that would make Mineta seem too amateur for this scale of infiltration. I sigh again. Maybe I'll also leave a picture of the Nomu that's faded out and blurry in his binder, along with notes in his backpack about the quirks of all our classmates and notes on how to defeat them easily. Make sure you don't leave too much evidence. Shigaraki says smartly. Kurogiri nods in agreement. Yes, or it would make it seem too obvious that Mineta is basically the traitor. and that could cause Nizu to become suspicious of other people. He'll doubt Mineta's innocence and contemplate framing, and that'll be even worse for us. So hacking traces, a faded picture, some notes, and maybe the contact info to our burner phone that the heroes can call, and I can pick up with a voice modifier, and we can make it seem like there are more than 4 members in the LOV. I say. Shigaraki nods, his head bobbing up and down excitedly. I want to answer the phone. I call dibs. Whatever you do, I better not hear that you're asking the heroes for a Mario Kart competition. Hirojiri warns, and I cough on the sip of Coca-Cola I just took. Y'all, I got pizza. Owari says as he comes through the bar door, and we rush over to his side, while Hirojiri gets plates. As we eat the pizza, we fill in the last member of our group the details of the plans. Cool, what can I do to help? Owari asks. You're good at drawing, right? I ask. Owari nods and I smile. Perfect. Can you draw an image of the Nomu, and then crease it out? Owari smiles back at me as he realizes the whole point of my request. Of course. Izuku's POV. The next day, 3 days left till the sports festival. I wake up early again and get to work immediately. Right off in the morning, I re-dye my hair brown again, as I see that the dye is fading a little. Today and tomorrow and Sunday, I have to finish out the finishing touches of the attack and the plans along with the evidence I'm trying to plant that frames my Neta. Today is Friday, and since the UA Sports Festival happens in 3 days, that means it occurs on Monday. For now, I arrive at school with the paper Owari had folded over and over the entire evening last night. Now it looked creased and well-worn with a drawing of the Nomu along with some illegible notes written across it. Just barely, you could see that the letters read the date of the UA festival along with some notes about the Nomu's skills. I will slip this into Mineta's bag today. He clearly never cleans it from the mess I see whenever he opens it to reach for papers in class. It looks like a dumpster of crumbled papers in there, and unless I'm incredibly unlucky, there's no way it'll be cleaned by him. After school, I need to buy some clothes for the Nomu. I already have the basic makeup materials that I'm using personally to cover up my eye bags and scars and freckles, so I don't need those. I have about 2 more hours until school starts, so I start with the notebook. I've seen Mineta's handwriting in class enough to be able to replicate it perfectly, and I scribble down pages after pages of notes on our class's different quirks and the UA layout. On one of the pages, I scrawled down the phone number to the LOV's burner phone in another person's handwriting. I pack that into my school carry bag and plan on how to slip it into his bag. On a new paper, I sketch out a quick design for my Nomu. Tomorrow is when I'll do the hacking since it'll probably take more time than I have available right now. I leave my house and quickly make my way to school. During lunch, students will often leave their school bags near their desk before leaving to go to the cafeteria for food. It's the unspoken rules and basic manners of a functioning societal human being to not touch other people's things. But I've broken enough of those rules, so I don't really exactly need to care. All I have to be careful of is the little cameras hidden around the classroom. But when I hacked the UA system before, I made sure to take mental notes of the hidden cameras. From what I theorize, if I angled and placed my body at a certain angle, I could block the camera's view of my hands. Just a split second would be enough for me to plunge my hand into my Neta's bag and plant the fake evidence. Class passes by quickly enough, and I mostly stare blankly at the board, pretending to look like I'm paying attention when I'm really planning my steps out for the hacking attack I'm planning for tomorrow. Lunch comes quickly, and my classmates all leave the room first, and I stand up a couple seconds later. Not too late as to seem suspicious, and I start walking towards the sliding entrance of the class. There's a split second when the angel matches up perfectly, and I stop and look back at my desk, and my hand flashes as I slip and shove the note and notebook into my Neta's bag. I'm carrying 2 other notebooks in my hands to cover up the loss of one. I look back forward with a shrug and rush out of the room as if I'm chasing after my friends. I use the restroom sometime during lunch and quickly check the UA security camera footage through my phone, and I double-check to make sure that nothing shows up on the footage. It's all clean and nothing clear shows up, which means I've pulled it off well, and I don't need to do any editing of the footage myself. Lunch ends and the rest of school goes by with some individual hero and quirk training and some one-on-one matches between some of my classmates. Instead of immediately heading home as I normally do after school, I get on the bus and head towards the nearest mall. I have the sketch I made of the fashion design of the Nomu I made earlier that morning, and I pull that out. I check my art as I go from store to store browsing until I get the perfect pair of normal-looking civilian clothing that is bulky enough to cover the Noma's body completely, but not too bulky that it draws attention. I finally managed to make it home after 2.5 hours of shopping. I had to restock on some of my makeup supplies. While Shigaraki had said that the LOV could cover the costs of my shopping spree, I kindly informed him that Shigaraki being nice to me was a bit too scary and intimidating, and the LOV was too broke to do that. But lately Shigaraki and the LOV's presence has been growing on me, so I can't hate on them too much. I myself have my own wealth of savings and money as I've collected a lot from finishing different people on the streets. I make myself some dinner of some creamy bacon pasta, and I work on some of my homework and study ahead of what we're studying in class. I'm technically a grade and a half ahead of my class, but I tend to be a bit forgetful, so I'm just trying to review in case I've forgotten. Next day, Saturday, May 24th. I wake up early in the morning and eat a quick, easy breakfast of natto with raw egg and rice. I then pull my chair towards my small desk and start up my series of computers that line my desk. There's a pair of blue light glasses and a mug of coffee I've prepared waiting for me along with some snacks for fuel. I slip on my glasses to prevent any headaches I could get. I open my softwares, and for the first 2 hours I work to survive several national firewalls and different companies that protect my Neta's privacy. I then have to keep the connection to my Neta's internal network stable and not get caught by the firewalls. From here I hack into UA's system and open several flyers about layouts of the school and the trap placements along with student and faculty information. I make sure to leave a small crumb of trails that lead back to my Neta's computer before I carefully extract my own presence from his system without leaving any trails. I take some extra details digitally to make sure that they really wouldn't be able to track me down before I finish after 6 hours of grinding. I head towards the LOV hideout in need of some socializing energy after an entire day of staring into my own reflection of my computer. I also had nothing to eat, and I was craving some of Kurojire's excellent cooking. Good afternoon, I say as I slam open the door. Good afternoon, Beach. Shigaraki says without even looking at me, and I roll my eyes. What's up? Owari says with a nod, without turning his head. They're both gaming as usual, and I'm glad that Shigaraki has taken a liking to Owari, since, well, he's my hot chocolate man. Good afternoon, Izuku. Kurojire says politely. I head towards Kurojire and sit down on a stool before him with a small smile. Thank God you're here. I think you and I should teach them a thing or two about some manners. If you weren't here, there would be no way I could deal with their bad manners and attitude. I have no idea how you do it personally. You get used to it eventually. Kurojire says with a sigh. It does take a while, however. And those two don't even know what the word manner means, much less that it exists. We're on our own as the only civilized ones around here. I feel so bad for you, I say with a laugh. Well, you've been coming more and more often, so clearly they're growing on you too. Kurojire says with a smirk, or what I perceive as a smirk. Well, yes, I say with an eye roll. I won't deny it. I massage my forehead with a tired wince. Did you do anything important today? Kurogi asks me. I nod. Yes. Today I finished hacking and leaving the trails back to my Neta, and yesterday I managed to slip in the papers to my Neta's bag. I also bought the clothes I needed for the Nomu and some more makeup products. You achieved a lot, I see. All I managed to do was some groceries, and these two started a new game. Kurojire says, Are you hungry? Yes. I say, my eyes widening happily. Tell the other two we're eating soon. Kurojire says with another small smile. He's been moving around continuously behind the bar ever since I'd arrived, and there was something cooking on the stove, and it smelled divine. I rush over to the coach where Owari and Shigaraki are staring intently at the screen. For a couple of moments I allow a bit of my childish self that I normally keep locked away to show its presence for a bit as I laugh and cheer on the two gamers. Oh yeah, Kurojire says we're eating soon. I say, and their heads snap towards me instantly. Shigaraki immediately turns off the TV and the two throw their controllers towards the table. I snicker as Owari and I race Shigaraki to the wooden table. We eat a series of dishes Kurojire has prepared for us, and I'm happy as I decide to crash at the LOV because being alone after eating all that good food seemed terrible. You could say that the LOV and its members were growing on me. Izuku's POV. I spent the next day, which was Sunday, just chilling at the LOV base trying to relax and settle my nerves before we execute the attack on UA. I'm about 99.99% certain it'll work since, after all, we did plan it to the T. I went out grocery shopping and doing mundane things with Kurojiri, and we both managed to draw out Shigaraki by the ear to get some sunlight and vitamin D for once in his life. Owari also came along with us and acted like a portable eco-friendly grocery bag. I also want to live some people during the night, making sure to keep the streets clean of different type of assaulters and other villains. I wake up early at 5:30 a.m. after returning home to my apartment at 1 a.m., meaning I only slept a blessed 4.5 hours. Enough sleep for today and tomorrow if I tried hard to stay awake and drank enough coffee. Today's the day of the UA Sports Festival, and I feel the beginning symptoms of nervousness rising within me. I feel nauseous as I try to eat some food and force myself to finish my entire breakfast of rice with some toppings. I then prepare myself to get ready for school. I put in my brown contacts. For my base skin, I spread a very thin, almost transparent layer of foundation. From afar, it'd be impossible to tell that I was wearing foundation. It'd probably only be detectable if someone was like 6 inches away from my face. After foundation, I use concealer on my freckles and eye bags to cover them up better. Then I shade my face a little bit to change the shape for Izuku. I grab my glasses and gel my hair a little so that it doesn't fluff up like Izuku does. I slip into my school uniform and grab my black school shoulder bag before I head towards UA at 8 o'clock. Homeroom starts at 8:25, and since I live 15 minutes away by walking from UA, albeit in a bit more run-down side of town, I managed to make it to the school gates at 8:15 and in class by 8:18 a.m. As usual, Momo and Ida are already sitting in their seats when I slide the door to our class open. Bakugo is sitting and Kirishima, Kaminari, and Shiro are crowding his desks. Hagakure, Tsu, and Mina are standing near Momo, and they are all chatting about something. Ojiro, Shoji, Koda, and Fumikage are all talking to Ida, who is as usual chopping his hands in a punctuated manner. There seemed to be an air of nervousness and restrained excitement. Aoyama is talking about something to Mineta and Sato. Todoroki was sitting alone with his head to the desk, and Ochako and Jiro had yet to arrive. I was the third to arrive as usual, and I sit down in my seat behind Tsu. "Why though, good morning," Kaminari says, sliding over to me. The two others drag along Bakugo and Mina. Tsu, Hagakure, and Momo join them all to huddle around my desk. I smile awkwardly, making sure that my facial muscles are working properly in the way I'd practiced before in front of a mirror. "Good morning, Kaminari-kun," I say politely with a smaller smile. "Are you excited for today?" "I bet you are," Mina says with a smirk as she prods at me. "Who wouldn't be excited for today?" Hagakure says with what I would imagine a roll of her eyes if I could see her. Bakugo stands behind the group, looking grouchy per usual. Tsuyu looks around the class before she says, "Everyone seems to be excited." "Karo, well, I for one am excited for all the manly challenges we'll compete in today," Kirishima says with a wide smile. Momo says, "Yes, I am also excited to compete with everyone here. And I'm excited to see the other classes and grades performances too." "I don't know, but Todoroki kinda looks down," Shiro says. "And so does Baku, bro. He's awfully quiet this morning. What's wrong? Down with some nerves?" Kaminari teases. "And Todoroki always looks like that," Mina says. They continue bickering, and I gratefully relax backwards into my chair, happy that I don't really have to say anything, only smile or appear bashful when someone caught my eye or looked my way. Ochako and Jiro arrive at the same time, and the four girls drift off to greet their friends. "For the last time, I'm not nervous," Bakugo says angrily, but without much energy. Kaminari snickers. "You sound worried then." "Not nervous." Changing the word doesn't change the meaning. I'm not worried or nervous. You extras can't beat me. Bakugo snaps. Kirishima frowns. "It's not very manly to be arrogant, Bakuo bro. Who knows, you could always lose to Todoroki." "Hot and cold," Bakugo says with a snort. "Lose to someone like him? As if. What's wrong with Todoroki?" Shiro complains. "Look at him. He's just being emo as usual. He'd never be able to beat me." I snort mentally. Bakugo, ever with the trademark confidence and arrogance. "What's wrong with being emo?" Kaminari asks, affronted. "Nothing really." "So are you saying there is a chance that Todoroki might beat you?" I ask, taking the chance to finally speak up. It's the chance that I can embarrass and get back at Bakugo for the years he'd tormented me that causes me to speak up, of course. Of course, this level of revenge was nothing compared to what I had in plan. Of course not. Bakugo says his face is red. I'll never lose to any of you weak extras. Especially not half and half. Todoroki glares at us, and the four of them shiver a bit while I smirk as I take a sip of my water calmly. All right, you idiots, settle down. We have a long day ahead of us. Aizawa says grouchily. Some of my classmates yelp or jump up in their seats in surprise. Sensei, can I ask you to stop scaring us? Ida asks formally. Yes, Sensei. Every day you come in and jump scare us by suddenly appearing and saying something. Mina complains. I might die of a heart attack when I'm like 17 at this rate. Or I'll become old and grouchy like you. I'm not grouchy. Aizawa says irritated. Sit down, Ishido. He didn't deny that he was old though. Kaminari says thinking aloud. Some of the students snicker. Class will be starting now. Aizawa says stiffly. In about 10 minutes the fair will be starting officially and the gates will be open to the general public to come and go freely. There will be plenty of street stalls that I'm sure you guys saw when you arrived, lining that path up to this central building area. Oh yeah, they're selling like tons of different food. Siro comments. Aizawa sighs and rubs his forehead. Can we maybe keep the comments at a minimum? Unless you guys want to be here all day with me. He glares at the class, and everyone clams up. Thank you. Moving on. The opening ceremony is at 8:45 for 15 minutes until 9. The first years compete the last. You guys will be after lunch at around 3:05. Then after that there will be performances by the Gen ED classes and festival activities throughout the school. Nizu is giving a speech somewhere on campus also. Third years will be competing from 9:11 and the second years will be from 1:03. The festival ends at 9. Any questions? Nobody says anything. Okay, I won't see you for the rest of the day since I have to help Hizashi with announcements. I know you will make me proud of problem children, so good luck. Make sure you keep track of the time and get changed into your hero costumes for your competition. Follow your classmates if you're unsure of what to do and try not to get lost. In fact, if you guys can make sure you stick together. Ida and Momo, you're in charge. Aizawa says. He sounds like a worried parent. I think in my head with a laugh. Not that I would know what that would sound like, but if I had to imagine what one sounded like, it'd probably be Aizawa at this moment. Ida and Momo nod their heads seriously, and Aizawa waves and says goodbye to us before rushing off to find Present Mike so that the two of them can get to the announcing center above the stadium. Aizawa stops at Ida's desks and gives him a stack of papers, and then leaves completely. All right, everyone. Ida says briskly, standing at the front of the class. It's 8:30 right now, and in 5 minutes the festival will start, so we'll start heading down to our assigned seating. I have the location here on this paper. Make sure you carry your student IDs so security around the school can verify your identity. There's rustling as people dig through bags to search for what they need. I end up grabbing only my phone, some water, my wallet which had my ID. Are we ready? Momo asks after a minute. We all nod. All right, follow me and Ida, and try not get separated. Bakugo tries to open the door, but it doesn't budge, and I frown. Aizawa was able to leave early. What was happening? Bakugo keeps yanking, and nothing happens, and Momo is in the process of creating a saw when the door slams open, and from the outside, we see a crowd of people standing outside of our door. I deadpan as I see a blonde-haired boy with gray eyes step forward. I see that Class 1A looks as raggedy and defeated as ever. I'm afraid to say that I'm not surprised, seeing as how your class has to constantly fear attacks from villains. How are you sleeping these days? With one eye open? He says with a cackle. My finger twitches. Maybe I could just blow his head in. Who are you? Bakugo asks. And why the hell are you here, you extras? You hear that he's calling us extras. I see the ego of 1A hasn't lessened one bit. The blonde says. We came to. He dramatically hair flips. Inform your class that this is war. You guys can think that you're all high and mighty and that you'll win this sports festival easily. But watch out, we're coming for you. All of you came to say that. I say in surprise, and everyone looks at me. Yes. A lilac-haired boy says, stepping forward. The general ed students have also come to declare war on your class. Prepare yourselves to get defeated and humiliated. The crowd all leaves silently after their declaration of war, and Bakugo scoffs. Is that it? Is that all those weaks had to offer? Are they trying to look weak, or what? That looked like they were trying to surrender or something. Now, Bakugo. I'm sure they just don't know the proper way to communicate their thoughts. Momo says competitively. We all look at her in surprise, and she smiles kindly, which scares my classmates even more. We're going to win against them, aren't we? Yes. Our class responds weakly. She continues smiling at us. What was that? Yes. Excellent. I'm glad to see that you understand. Momo continues smiling as she claps her hands together rapidly. Let's get moving now. The other students all shudder as they quickly line up and follow her out of the class. We head down the stairs, and once we reach the ground floor and out the doors, we're immediately sucked into a swarm of people all moving to enter the stadium. For the normal civilians, the line to get admitted into the stadium is long, but for students, heroes, and UA staff, we have a separate side entrance to enter. Momo and Ida successfully lead us to that entrance, and after a quick head count to make sure we're all still together, we head up the ramp into the stadium. We sit in the front rows of the seats along with the other heroes and UA students, which gives us the best view of the arena. I'm so excited to see the third years fight. Kaminari says hyper once again. I bet they'll be so manly. Kirishima says with a happy smile. Good morning, everyone. Present Mike screams from the podium in the middle of the arena. Are you ready to get this party started? The crowd cheers back, excitement visible in the air. Yeah, that's more like it. But first, a word from our president. Nizu steps up next to present Mike, and after a quick speech to all the students to give the competition their best shot and for the audiences to enjoy themselves throughout the day, the sports festival officially finally started. Izuku's POV. After Nizu's quick speech, the third year's competition starts, and I space out for a bit of time. Around me, my classmates and the audience in general actually are all screaming their hearts out and cheering. I'm more focused on reviewing the plan in my head step by step. After the first round of competition for the third years, and there's a short 5-minute break, I stand up and stretch. I've paid attention to very little of the match, not even noting what it's about. Instead, I mostly focused on the skills of the third years and how good they are. Just in case the LOV ends up going to war against US, it would be useful information so I'd know how to easily finish off the students. I'm going to go look around at the stalls. I say to no one in particular before I head off. Ida gives me a brief nod as I walk past him before he returns to talking enthusiastically with Aoyama and Shiro about the third years. I walk out of the stadium and head towards the stalls that are lined around the main path to UA's central building. There's a bathroom near the cafeteria that I slip into before I fire off the quick text to start the plan. The code to send the Nomu out of the warehouse towards UA is a simple and concealed. I'm bored. In case that our text messages will be investigated, I'd purposefully planned ahead so that my messages would all seem innocent. I'm bored. Was the green light for Kurojiiri to warp to the warehouse and warp the Nomu to the stall next to me. I'd already made sure to check it was empty before I entered my own stall, and I hear a faint whooshing and sloshing sound as the warp opens and the Nomu plops out. That must suck Shigaraki text backs. We've established that this line is what he'd respond with to my board message. It means that the Nomu was successfully warped and that he'd established his control over the Nomu remotely. Well, you should try it sometime. I respond back. This is completely meaningless, and we've already agreed to send useless messages like this to make the conversation with the code seem more fluent and natural. And I really am bored. I'm always bored, so technically maybe you should stop complaining sometime. Shigaraki texts back quickly. You're always complaining, so you can't be talking. I say, smirking at my phone. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Shigaraki responds, and I sigh gratefully. He managed to close off the conversation in a way that seemed natural. Good. I hack into UA's security camera footage system and look at the earlier footage of a couple minutes and glitch it a bit so that it would black out for a couple of seconds randomly in spurts throughout the minutes, concealing the Noma's entrance and exit. The glitch would stabilize after 5 seconds of blacking out, and that would repeat over a 5-minute period to make it seem a bit more of a natural glitch. I leave my stall after spending 3 minutes and 46 seconds. I did time myself, and I wash my hand. The Nomu exits its own stall, and I'm glad that there's no one else in here, so that there's no physical eyewitnesses to the random spawning of the Nomu. The Nomu moves to walk out of the bathroom, and I grab its wrist and point at the sink. Wash your hands. I say, and I know that the mics I planted in its ears can pick up my voice. The Nomu doesn't move for a moment before it appears to raise its shoulders, as if in a shrug or sigh. It then mimics the actions of washing one's hands. It's wearing a long turtleneck sweater covered with a black, oversized sweater and gray sweatpants. It's also wearing a pair of beat-up sneakers, and it's wearing a black, no-labeled cap, and a black mask covers its face. I've done my best with patching up the visible parts of his skin with the various materials on hand. I'd covered the visible skin that was rotting with new ones, with minuscule stitches that took forever, and those stitches were covered up with several different makeup products. Beneath the clothes was probably rotting skin, but I'd replaced them yesterday, so they shouldn't smell too much like rotting flesh. It's described online as rotting eggs, rotting meat, cabbages, mothballs, pungent, odorous. For its eyes, there are cameras placed in small round eye-shaped balls, and those are covered by contacts. Just in case, though, I did prepare some sunglasses into the Noma's coat pocket. Bloodless lips were pretty easy to cover up with some tinted lip gloss along with very, very light blush to make the Nomu seem more human. It did seem slightly odd to see someone cover up so much for an event held in May, but then again, with the sheer number of people attending the sports festival, there was a 100% guarantee of several oddballs in the crowd. I mean, look at me. The Nomu finally finishes washing their hands, and they leave the bathroom, and I follow closely behind. The Nomu has a ticket to its purchased seat in its pocket, and I watch its slightly awkward movement as it pulls it out and holds it up to its eye to read it. I'm sure Shigaraki has already memorized his seat and is only double-checking as it's a normal action for people to take when at a stadium. While the Nomu's movements were awkward, it wasn't that noticeable that a normal civilian or security guard could notice. Only a hero who would be staring at the Nomu continuously for a couple minutes would be able to detect any hint of anomaly. That was most likely, of course. A more experienced or higher-ranked hero might be able to tell a bit faster or easier, but who knew? The stadium seating was pretty simple. On one end of the arena was a tall tower-like building that held the rooms for the announcers and the staff that ran the programs behind the audio and the various tech that went into the competitions. Around that tower at the base and towards the front of the seating were crowds of heroes, and to the left and right of the heroes, also towards the fronts, were school students, both from UA and other schools. And then every other seat was filled with civilians. The seat we bought for the Nomu was closer towards the front. Its position is a mix and in between the heroes, students, and civilians. It was a bit pricier, but again, I finished enough people to cover the cost easily, and my job paid well, so it wasn't too bad. And the seating for the Nomu was pretty much the key to the plan being successful. The second round of the third year's competition starts, and I sit back in my seat next to Kaminari and Kirishima, who are commenting consistently throughout the competition. I'm able to space out the rest of the time until the third year's competition is finally over at 11. We will now have a lunch break until 1. I expect to see you all back here for the next round of competition between the second years. That's right, it's going to be even more exciting and crazier from here on out. Present Mike screams into the microphone, and the speakers screech a bit in feedback. Dismissed. A bit of Aizawa's sigh is caught towards the end along with Present Mick's voice noticeably decreasing in volume, and Kaminari snickers next to me. Finally, it's lunch. Shirose standing up and stretching. I know, right? My butt was starting to hurt from sitting too long. Kaminari complains. Kirishima pats me on the shoulder. Let's go get lunch, yeah? Bakugo is already standing next to the redhead, and the other two look back at me. I sigh mentally. I guess I have no choice but to go to lunch with them. The Nomu is gone from its seat by now also, probably mingling in with the crowd as everyone goes from stall to stall. Nobody really remains in the stadium after all. Driven by hunger, they're searching for food, and the Nomu follows them to seem a bit more normal. Good Shigaraki is following the plan. I stand up with a sigh. You're right for once, Kaminari. About what? He asks, confused. And what do you mean for once? I'm always right, dude. My body does hurts. From sitting for so long. I say with an innocent smile and tilt of my head. Ekmina says, coming sliding over to my side and patting my head vigorously. You're so cute, our cinnamon roll for real. I make my expression look confused and look towards her. You're completely right, Mina-chan. Momo says, standing next to Mina. He is indeed our cinnamon roll. Karo. Tsuyu adds. Ochako looks at the other guys. What are you guys thinking of eating? I'm getting fawned over, and I make sure to keep the most pure and airy expressions on my face as I pay attention to their conversation. Food, after all, is important to me. Eventually, everyone agrees on getting food that's easy to eat while standing or walking. I'm probably going to go for takoyaki. Kirishima decides on yakitori, and Bakugo is getting some sort of spicy ramen, and as much as everyone tries to convince him that he'll spill, he keeps declaring that he'd never spill. Kaminari and Shiro are getting the same thing, some sort of hamburger. Ochako, Tsuyu, and Mina are getting crepes, and Momo and Hagakura are undecided, and Jiro decided on getting some yakitori also. I follow the group as we walk out of the stadium and towards the food stalls. They all chat happily, and people kept trying to bring me into the conversation. This is going to be a long day, isn't it? So, this was the end of part 3 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.